Okay, so as to simplify, x squared plus 5x plus 4 over x plus 1 times x minus 3. That will give you the answer. Big factor the numerator. Numerator factors is x plus 1 times x plus 4. If you don't remember how to factor, by all means, go back to your gear. You're going to need to know that. And then that's over x plus 1 times x minus 3. So that could be written as x plus 1 over x plus 1 multiplied by x plus 4 over x minus 3. Because, of course, to multiply rational expressions or fractions of any kind, you multiply numerators and you multiply denominators. If you multiply these numerators, this is what you get. You multiply these denominators, this is what you get. This is completely out. You really want to understand that, or you forget the rules. You get them mixed up with something else. You want to understand it at that level. And of course, x plus 1 over x plus 1 is 1. Multiply that by x plus 4 over x minus 3. And anything multiplied by 1 is just itself. You get x plus 4 over x minus 3. Now, open math is probably going to tell you to put lines through this and this. Okay? Well, you get confused about what to put lines through. You start putting lines through the wrong stuff if you don't understand this. Okay? So I think it's important to understand this, not just, okay, I can put lines through these things. Okay, there are rules for cancellation. Now, by the rules for cancellation, you can put lines through them if this is a factor of the numerator and this is a factor of the denominator. That means this is multiplied by a bunch of other stuff to give you the numerator, and this is multiplied by a bunch of other stuff to give you the denominator. If you're canceling anything, you really want to write out that I'm canceling a factor of the numerator with a factor of the denominator, and think about what that means, because there's an epidemic of bad cancellation. It has been even before COVID. It's much worse now. Okay? You want to avoid that, because I'm not sympathetic to bad cancellation when I grade. Okay? If you do bad cancellation, you're going to get at most 3 points out of 10. Okay? And there's got to be a lot of other good stuff there to justify those 3 points. Okay. Now we want to add x plus 2 over x minus 3. If you know how to add fractions, you find a common denominator. And that's a step, even if you did it right, and that's some people did on the test, did your addition of fractions correctly throughout, which is good, because that's so important. Because you're going to use exactly the same steps when you do it with these things, okay? Now there's a step where you find the common denominator, okay? You should document that. The common denominator, write it out. Common denominator is what? Well, it's denominator times denominator, okay? So you write this as well, to get denominator x minus 3 times x minus 5, we've already got x minus 3 here. We have to multiply by x minus 5. And if we multiply the denominator by x minus 5, well, we better multiply the numerator by x minus 5 so that this expression, since x minus 5 over x minus 5 is just 1, this expression is totally equivalent to just x plus 2 over x minus 3. You want to understand every detail of what I just said. Otherwise, you're at serious risk of getting something mixed up. You know how to have it. Hopefully your habit will last you through the test, but it's not going to last you much longer. Okay. Then we got x minus 3 here times x minus 3 here. Then that gives us x plus 2 times x minus 5 over x minus 3 times x minus 5 plus 4 times the quantity x minus 3 over x minus 5 times x minus 3. Now, come up here to finishing. This means this denominator is the same as this denominator. Now, these two factors are in different order, but multiplication doesn't care what order you multiply two things in. So we know that our common denominator can be written, let's just write it x minus 3 times x minus 5. And if you want to do x minus 5 times x minus 3, it doesn't make any difference at all. Okay? So that's your common denominator, and you can add your numerators, x plus 2 times x minus 5 plus 4 times x minus 3. Well, then we multiply this out using the distributive law. We get x squared minus 3x minus 10. And distributive law here just gives us 4x minus 12. Get from here to here, you must use the distributive law. And there we have it. Now, we sort of have, we haven't simplified the numerator yet. The numerator is going to be x squared plus x minus 22. All divided by x minus 3 times x minus 5. Notice that I keep the denominator factored because it's possible the numerator might factor. Okay? And that one factor might be the same as one of these factors so that we can separate it out and cancel it. But if we cancel, we make sure we understand factor divided by factor. Okay? Or write it out like this, preferably both. So you really understand what you're doing. Now, that's not going to work. You can write out every possible factor. The only factors in 22 would be 2 and 11 or 1 and 22, right? In no way those factors are going to give you an x minus 3 or an x minus 5. Well, then, optional, then not a bad idea. Actually, I think it's a better idea. Just keep things back when they can factor. But this is going to be then x squared minus 8x plus 15. I consider this step to be optional, but open math probably doesn't. Okay? In other words, keep it in simplest form. Simplest form is everything that could be factored is there. Again, worth reviewing my words on this because everybody seems to be about 2 assignments behind. Of course, there was a test. And I haven't checked the half credit page to see if maybe you did it there. All right. Another thing I haven't checked is make sure I can see everything on the board, but luckily I can. Okay. Let me just. Oh man, I didn't do down. That's probably not going to go up the right line. Ah, shoot. This camera is a little bit aggravating, although the video quality is quite good. Okay. Now I'm going to move it over a little bit. Get a little bigger picture, nothing wrong with that. Okay, we got everything done. Okay. All right. Now the last problem, we just want to multiply two rational expressions, and multiplication is really easy. You multiply the numerators and you multiply the denominators. So we have x squared plus 3x minus 2 over x plus 2 multiplied by x minus 3 over x squared minus 4. Now, if you're inclined to find a common denominator and put these both over common denominators, that's a good inclination, but you should stop yourself and realize you don't need common denominator to multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators. You do need a common denominator to add two rational expressions, because just as with numbers, you can't add 2/3 and 3/4 without finding a common denominator of 12. Okay, it's very important. So again, all we do is multiply numerators and multiply denominators. That's x squared plus 3x minus 2 multiplied by x minus 3 over x plus 2 times x squared minus 4. Okay, now we have to multiply out the numerator for sure. And in this case, we don't necessarily need to multiply out the denominator. Matter of fact, we should probably factor the denominator of this equation. Okay. Anyhow, the numerator, if we multiply it out, use the distributive law, which gives us the numerator of x cubed. I have to be careful with this. We get a 3x squared minus 3x squared, so no x squared. We have a minus 2x and a minus 9x. Gives us minus 11x plus 6. And that's divided by x plus 2. Now, x squared minus 4 is a special product. It's x minus 2 times x plus 2. Numerator isn't going to factor. No matter how you break down 6 into 6 and 1 or 2 and 3, there's no way you're getting anything as big as 11. And if you write it out that way, and you should review this set of examples, and I recommend that you do, get every word that I say, and make sure you understand as much of it as you possibly can, and apply it to doing these problems. Because this kind of stuff becomes a big hang-up right about last week in pre-calculus, okay? If you don't know how to do this, you're going to get lost in a certain part of the course. Won't affect you in other parts of the course. You're going to spot, you're going to lose 10% of the course. You need to understand this pretty well now so that you can really refine it and understand it when you take pre-calculus. Okay, anyhow. That wasn't. We completely factored the denominator in case the numerator had factored. And actually, this is x cubed minus 11x plus 6. Just taking a quick look, if you got minus 8, and no, that's not going to work. If you got 8, you don't get 22. If you got 1, that doesn't work. Plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2 don't give you 0 here. So I think there's not much to do. You might not understand what I just said, but you might. So if you don't, it's kind of okay in this course. Okay. So anyhow, it does come up pre-calculus, but it's kind of introduced pre-calculus. So what I just said, 1, 2, doesn't give you zero and stuff like that, you kind of ignore it. Shouldn't say it. Okay. Now you could again multiply out this denominator or multiply out the denominator as it is here, but that's not going to be particularly useful since the numerator doesn't factor on whole numbers. I don't think neither will the denominator. Okay. Okay. So first of all, you haven't had to do this. Okay. We have talked about multiplying and dividing, and that hasn't been something. Okay. With the addition hasn't, and I'm pointing to part of the board you can't see. Be able to do this, just multiply. And if you no wait, be able to do this, a multiply. And division, if it was divided, you just flip this part upside down and multiply, just like you do with fractions. Okay. Again, every test I've seen so far has been pretty secure with fractions, but there are a couple that I haven't seen. Somebody sneaked in and took it Friday afternoon after I left. That's all right. Okay. And at least one person had a real conflict with my lab. There were two people, because I've got some distant students also. And what seemed like valid conflicts, I allowed them to take it today. Okay. I think there are enough tests in there. If you want to really take another one today, you can. But don't. I'll let you take another one. Especially if you don't pass this. Okay. But you really want to get this stuff done. Okay. I'm rambling. I'm sorry. Okay. So anyhow, we've done multiplication. And we know how to factor, so the factoring should be clear. And if you know, and then you should be able to do this one, that's just simplification. Just factor numerator, factor denominator, and see if anything, if there are any common factors between numerator and denominator. So write it like this. And then if you want, put some lines through things and write out the rule for cancellation. Okay, which is canceling, or just even cancel factors of numerator with factors of denominator. For that many words, it makes you think very clearly about what you're doing. And then maybe you'll be among the minority of students who come into pre-calculus knowing the rules for cancellation. And you'd show off everybody admire you, you know. Okay, well, anyhow. Okay. Now, addition, just like with fractions, we find a common denominator. Okay, express everything with a common denominator. The steps are identical to what you do with addition. But let's just kind of re-emphasize that. Give me just a second here. Let me go ahead to this part of the board. Right, right now. Let's try another addition. Okay. Let's do this. I'll remind you, what's the first step? Actually, you tell me. What's the very first thing I did? when I did this addition. Unfortunately, I didn't record that when I was doing it. It's better if I do. But you see what I did. First of all, I said the common denominator is this. Okay? That, I might have gone over the details, but let's just look at the overview. The common denominator, we find the common denominator. Okay, x minus 4 times x plus 3. Comment on your homework. What you're learning for next time is going to be finding a least common denominator, because sometimes it's very helpful to use the least common denominator. It makes your problem much less complicated. So hopefully you remember from what we did with fractions the first day, first week, why the least common denominator just gives you smaller numbers. It's easier to work. Any common denominator will do. It'll get you there if you do everything right. Okay? But the least common denominator does it with the least possible amount of confusion. So I'm not going to go over that. I'm just going over the process. And if next time you're not doing well with least common denominator, we'll talk more about it. Okay, so anyhow, your common denominator. What then do we do? Same thing we do with numbers. We write our original expression in such a way that we get a common denominator. And before I had an x minus 4 here, maybe it was plus 4, I don't remember. I guess it's plus 4. It should have been x plus 3. Okay, so I got some problem. Look at it. Anyhow, so that's the second step. Write the thing with that common denominator. Then have your numerators. And then write out the steps of the distributive law. Okay? And then use the expressions you get to replace the products here. There we have. And then one thing I did was I let x equal 1 and check what my numerator and denominator are, get the fraction, see what these fractions add up to if x equals 1. And that's when I located the error that I'd written x plus 4 here, or x minus, probably x minus 4 instead of x plus 3. Okay, so last thing I'll say is check. And correct if necessary. Usually, x equals 1 gives you a good check. Okay. Sometimes it might not, and you might need to go to x equals 2. But x equals 1 is easy to check because what you get is just numerators. 1 minus 3 minus 4 plus 44, okay, which is 38. And this is negative 3 times 4, which is negative 12. 38 over negative 12 is negative 19 over 6. I don't think that matches what you get here. Okay. Anyhow, that's the process. See how you can do with least common denominator. And we'll review this a little bit more next time. Okay.